All right, good evening, and welcome to the, what month are we in?
June 9th.
To the June 9th Planning and Zoning meeting. We will have invocation led by Mr. Keller and pledge of allegiance by Mr. Galvin. Let's stand.
Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing on our meeting tonight. Give us the wisdom to make good decisions for our city. We ask a blessing on all of our staff and what they do to help us and help our city, Lord. We ask blessing on all of our citizens. Keep them safe, keep them well. A special blessing, Lord, on all our first responders. Keep them safe as they go about the job of keeping us safe. And last, Lord, we ask blessing on our military. Wherever they are in the world, keep them safe and bring them home to us. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chair Lomneck is absent. Vice Chair Forges.
Here.
Member Keller.
Here.
Member Chacon.
Here.
Member Galvin.
Here.
Member Butler.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, now we are moving to the consent agenda. Unless you guys have any questions, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Keller. Can I have a
Second.
Second by Mr. Chacon. Any comments? If not, let's vote. Motion approved. Thank you. Old business. We do not have any. New business. Looks like we have 5068 Adair Street. Looks like this is an annexation as well as rezoning. And presented by planner Belizier. Thank you.
Property located at 5068 Adair Street. For issues, it is whether or not the Planning and Zoning Commission should recommend approval of the annexation and rezoning for property from Orange County A1 to City of Ocoee R1. The background, the property is located west of Adair Street and approximately 750 feet south of the intersection of Parkona Ocoee Road and Adair Street. And total the lot is 0.38 acres large, and the property is eligible for annexation as it is adjacent to city property, eligible for city water service, and reduces the existing amount of enclaves. The property is also consistent with the JPA future land use map, which is low density residential. Here we have the aerial photography of the property. It is vacant, it's just these aerials are a little outdated. These are 2025, but 2026 the property is vacant. This is the surrounding zoning map showing the adjacent city properties with the R1 zoning designation. The future land use map showing the low density residential. And so with that, the Development Review Committee met to review the item during its June 2nd meeting and considered it for the annexation rezoning and making a recommendation of approval. And similarly, staff is also making a recommendation of approval. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission also make a recommendation of approval for the proposed annexation and rezoning of the property from Orange County A1, City of Ocoee R1. And that concludes our presentation.
Perfect. Are there any questions for staff? I have one. Yeah, I drove by the property today, and I mean, that grass is almost like reaching my height. I mean, I know it's not an HO or anything like that, but any recommendation at all when someone's coming, I mean, especially you have a presentation coming in today, you want to annex, you want to rezone, but you don't cut the grass?
I would just consider that responsible maintenance of the property owner, and if it becomes unfriendly, the enforcement is welcome to set that property.
Yeah, because it is on Adair Street. I mean, everyone sees it. I mean, it really should have been cited. Even the sign you put there last week is basically, you can't even see it.
The maintenance would fall into the city code ordinance.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Guess not. All right, well, we'll bring it back over here. So,
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve annexation AX 03-26-01 of the 5068 Adair Street. Adair Street.
All right, we have a motion to recommend annexation by Mr. Keller. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Butler. Any question? All right, let's vote. All right, now I need a motion for rezoning of this property. RZ to 2602301.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, a recommendation of approval for the rezoning of project number RZ 26-03-01.
Perfect. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Chacon. My apologies. If there are no other discussion, let's vote. All right, motion carries.
We're missing one.
There it goes.
All right, perfect. All right. Public comments? Any updates?
There's
What?
more items, sir.
Where?
You got the Walmart neighborhood.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at my cheat sheet over here. My apologies. Oh, here we go. Item 2. Here we go. All right, where's our project over here? Item 2, we have, where is it over here? Oh, yep, okay, Walmart neighborhood marketplace sign variance project number VR 2602. Planner, Bill is here.
Okay, so this is for the Walmart Neighborhood Market located at 10738 Ocoee Road for the proposed sign variance. Okay, so for issues, it is should the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the variances to Article 8, Sections 8-6A and 8-6D of the Land Development Code as follows. There is a lot. A maximum sign height of 10 feet 4 inches for the north sign elevation, a maximum sign height of 7 feet 9 inches for the east side elevation, a maximum sign area of 459 square feet for the north sign elevation, a maximum sign area of 159 square feet for the east sign elevation, a maximum sign height of 1 feet 6 inches for the north canopy sign, and then a maximum sign width of 22 feet for the north canopy sign. For background, the property is located within the Ocoee Village Center PUD with frontage along Ocoee Road and North Lakewood Avenue, and the proposed size of the building is 48,585 square feet. Here we have the aerial photography of the property. The lots have been aggregated since its final site plan review. The surrounding zoning map, again showing that PUD designation for the property and its adjacent areas. The future land use map showing the commercial future land use. And so per section 4-9A of the Land Development Code, variances must exhibit meeting 4 different criteria. The first, that there are special conditions or circumstances that exist that are peculiar to the property that are not applicable to other properties. That the literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other property owners. That special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. And that the granting of the variance request would not confer special privileges to the applicant. So here is the previously approved site plan for the neighborhood Walmart. It is within a PUD, however, the PUD doesn't distinguish any different signage codes, so it would defer to the Land Development Code. And for the Land Development Code, the sign area is dependent on the size of the building and the frontage. So because the building is up to 50,000 square feet and its frontage, it's allowed a sign area of 100 square feet and a maximum sign height of 4 feet per elevation. So this is what they submitted as their proposed signage package for their wall signs, showing the signage along each elevation. And then it's a little bit small, but this just shows the details of the dimensions and the square footages for each of the different signs. And this is for both the north elevation and the east elevation. Okay, so based on what has been provided, Staff has determined that there are no special conditions or circumstances that exist that are peculiar to the property. Like other non-residential buildings within the city, they are all subject to the same signage requirements, and staff doesn't identify any special conditions or circumstances that would justify the significant increase in signage, copy area, height, or width. That the literal interpretation of the regulations do not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties. Because the property is a corner lot, they have the bonus of an additional sign on the other elevation. So if anything, it gives them ample signage to have on their building. 3, that the circumstances of the variance are the result of the applicant wanting an increase in the copy area, height, and width of all the signs, and they are able of being compliant to code if they reduce the proposed sign, the font size, and the logo size. And that for the granting of the variance would confer a special privilege onto the applicant. As I previously mentioned, other non-residential buildings are subject to the same signage code, and staff doesn't identify any justification for the increase in size. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission make a recommendation of denial of the requested variances to Article 8, Sections 8-6A and 8-6D of the Land Development Code to not allow, again, those listed of the variance requests. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I think I have a couple of questions, because I'm actually torn on this one.
Sure.
My original thinking is I tend to agree with staff's recommendation that we shouldn't agree with this, but I remember back in the day when I first got on the city commission, we landed up losing having, what's the Cracker Barrel, because we wouldn't let them have the porch. And I know this isn't a porch, this is signs, but I'm looking at it, and my question is, I guess there's a few questions. One, are the signs just out on the main roads and not facing the buildings themselves that the residents are in?
Yeah,
Is
so
it-
the signs are proposed facing,
Whether
facing
that's-
Clarkona, Ocoee Road, and then North Lakewood Avenue.
Lakewood, okay. So, and then my second question is this the standard sign that they have on all of their family markets? Like, if I was to go to the one that's out on 50 now,
Yeah.
am I talking about the exact same signs? They're not looking for anything special for us, yes, not special for what they do normally.
Right, so I did look at that Walmart, and the size of the building is almost 4 times the size of this one. So the allowed copy area and height is almost proportionate to the building. So that building was allowed a sign copy area of 200 square feet and a height of 8. So it's appropriate for that size of the building. This one is a little bit under 50,000, so it's capped at the 100 square feet of copy area and 4 feet height.
Okay, because like I said, I'm torn on this one. One, I don't want to lose, I don't want to give it to them because, just because it's Walmart. And at the same time, I don't want another Cracker Barrel where we lose a good client simply because, well, your sign was too big, and they said, you know what, this is our regular sign, we're out of here. If you're not going to play nice, we don't want to play at all.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only reason I ask.
Yeah, they have submitted and have received approval for their final site plan, and they are under review for site work and building as well.
Okay, so we're not gonna lose them.
Okay.
All right.
Safe to say.
We're not gonna lose them. Sorry.
No, that's it. Yeah.
I only have, I just wanted to clarify, we're just talking about the sign that's on the building, not necessarily the monument sign, because I'm pretty sure they're gonna have another one, right?
Only the wall signs physically affixed to the building, and I'll show you which ones they're.
Okay, no, I saw that, just wanna make sure.
Yep, just the wall
Because I know they
signs.
typically have, whenever allowed, they usually have a one on the street as well. So I think, so that's not gonna be the one that we're
Are you referring
dealing with
to
that.
like a monument sign?
Correct, monument sign.
Yeah, they're not proposing any monument signs, just wall
Okay.
signage right now.
Just a wall sign, okay. Again, in my opinion, I think you can see a Walmart from a mile away. I don't care how big the sign is, it's the same color, same building, same size, so I would agree with staff, with the recommendation. Anybody else have any comments? Okay. All right, looks like the applicant's not here, but I'll ask for them anyways. Maybe they're on the phone somewhere, no? They're on the phone? Okay, all right.
Just open and close the public, I
Right.
think there's a public hearing, so you gotta open and close it, right?
Yeah, okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to us. So if there are no other comments, or can I have a motion to either recommend approval or disapproval for item number 2?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we go with staff's recommendation of denying the increase in signage for the Walmart neighborhood market sign variance.
Okay, we've got a motion to recommend denial by Member Keller.
Second.
Second by Mr. Chacon. My apologies.
You get it.
I'll get it.
Yeah.
If there are no other comments, let's go ahead and vote. All right. Second motion approved. Perfect. Thank you.
One last one.
That's right. No, I'm not gonna rush to get out of here. We have a third one. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Third item on the agenda over here, looks like it's a text amendment to the Land Development Code, creating section 4-13 to establish the regulations and procedures for certified recovery residencies, presented by Mr. McFarland.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Tonight, I'm bringing before you an item on whether the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as a local PZ or LPA, should recommend approval for this proposed text amendment, amending Article 4 of the Ocoee Land Development Code to create Section 4-13, which it would be to establish regulations and procedures for certified recovery residences, including a process for requesting reasonable accommodation as required by Chapter 2025, Chapter 2025-182 Florida statutes. So a bit of background on this. SB 954 was signed into law last year by Governor DeSantis with an effective date of July 1st, 2025. The purpose of this bill was really to require an opportunity, or to require local governments to provide an opportunity for certified recovery residences to seek any accommodation from municipal land use regulations, zoning district restrictions, distance requirements, buffers, anything. Now, a certified recovery residence is defined by Florida statute as a residential dwelling unit, the community housing component of a licensed day or night treatment facility with community housing or other form of group housing which is offered or advertised through any means, including oral, written, electronic, or printed means by any person or entity as a residence that provides a peer-supported, alcohol-free, and drug-free living environment. I just want to note that currently the city has no certified recovery residences within our city boundary. As far as staffer can remember, we have never received an inquiry in recent memory regarding a certified recovery residence. And in our own land development code, the only reference that we have to certified recovery residences is defining them within our own land development code. If a certified recovery residence was seeking to apply within the city, we would be required to ask them for a local business tax receipt, and they would undergo that process. They would maybe be required to go through our building and fire department for any kind of alterations that they were looking to do to the residence. But other than that, staff has identified no process or restrictions that the city has placed specifically on certified recovery residences. So with that, staff is recommending that the PCC recommend approval to the City Commission for the proposed text amendment that would amend Article 4 of the Ocoee Land Development Code, which would create Section 4-13, which is just to establish regulations and procedures that are required by statute for certified recovery residences that are seeking an accommodation from the city's land development code. and required by this recent law that was passed last year. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the proposed ordinance.
All right. Question for staff?
Yeah, so what is the impact
Yeah.
of this?
Yeah, so this would just create a opportunity for if a certified recovery residence was coming into the city and thought that our municipal code was too restrictive, it would create a process for them to request accommodation from any portion of our code that would restrict them.
Okay.
Now, the city doesn't currently have anything in our land development code that would further restrict somebody coming in asking for this. Staff is really bringing this before you and the city commission to comply with Florida statutes. We're required by statute to have this language in our land development code.
Okay, so we can consider, have the discussions and see.
Yeah, so all this would be doing is making it so that staff now has a procedure that if in our land development code update that we are going to be bringing before you and the city commission for consideration in the future, if we were to enact any kind of regulations regarding certified recovery residences and any buffer requirements or restrictions on, minimum distance from schools, what have you, I mean, it could be anything. This would create an opportunity for those applicants to then come to staff seeking an accommodation from those requirements. And it institutes a process in which staff can take in those applications for that accommodation. We have a certain time frame in which to respond to the accommodation request, and then we would then go through that process with the applicant. And it's just to comply with Florida statute. Yep.
I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Now, this statute goes to city ordinances. Does it affect subdivision HOAs? I'm looking at the deed titled HOAs, because what I'm looking at is if all of a sudden someone says, well, you know what, I want to put one in this subdivision which has certain requirements for what they can and can't do on the property.
Sure.
And they come in and say, well, we're exempt from all that because this state says so.
Yeah.
Is the state exempting them from that as well, or is the state just exempting them from the city requirements?
Good question. So this, to staff's knowledge, wouldn't affect those deed-restricted communities. Somebody wanting to establish a certified recovery residence would still have to follow the restrictions in those deed-restricted communities. This is just for seeking relief from any city ordinances that the city wants to pass restricting these residences.
Okay. And then the other question was more of a technical one. When I was reading this, I noticed that it says SB 180 prevents us from adding this to our land development code, but then SB 954 says we have to add it to our land development code.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
So SB 180, the language in it, to my memory, restricts local government's ability to adopt ordinances or codes that are more restrictive or burdensome. This is, in fact, the opposite. So it's creating an opportunity for applicants to come in and seek relief from, say, we did have any restrictions on these, it would be allowing them to come in and seek relief from those restrictions. So we as a municipality are still able to adopt updates to our land development code, especially ones that comply with Florida statute.
Yep.
We, at the time, or currently are restricted on adopting ordinances or codes that would create more of a burden for applicants or developers. Yes.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Can we identify any properties here at all in the city that are currently being used as a certified recovery residence?
So I did some research, and according to, I believe it's the Florida Association of Recovery Residences, there are no recovery residences that are certified with the state within the boundaries of Ocoee. The ones that I could identify were in Winter Park, Orlando, and maybe some other places nearby. But Currently, there's none registered with the state that have undergone
That
that
are
process in the city. So,
Okay.
and again, staff, in my time with the city, I've never had somebody come in and have any questions regarding these. This is the first, honestly, when we came across this bill, it was the first time I had heard of certified recovery residences. So it's not something that we commonly get. Not to say that it couldn't happen.
And given that, can you give us an idea of what regulations you would plan to impose? I mean, give us an idea, because I'd like to have an idea of where we're going with this.
Yeah, so it would be stuff that we would consider in our comprehensive update to our land development code that we'll be bringing back before you and the city commission that staff is working on currently. I can't speak to anything specific, but the things that come to mind based on other municipalities would be distance requirements from schools. With group homes, for example, we have distance requirements from other group homes so that they're not all clustered in one specific area. So that's the things that come to mind immediately. Beyond that, we'd probably have to do more research on what other municipalities do and what other restrictions have been deemed legal or compliant. Because we don't want to create something that then creates an opportunity for somebody to come and challenge and create problems.
That's kind of where I am too, because I'm kind of like, I want to have an idea of what is it that we are going to, to add, some ideas. I mean, is there an application somewhere that we're doing this, before we have to make an approval? I mean, it just doesn't, I'm not comfortable that it's here without having any idea of what is it that we are going to impose as regulations.
Yeah.
This is basically saying you have to follow the state law.
Unfortunately, this is
But
this
there will
is
be,
the
but there
the
will be
situation.
limitation, once we approve this, there'll be limitation for someone who wants to apply, but what are they? I mean, you mentioned distance from school. How would this affect a school?
Yeah, so that is something that we definitely want to look at as a city, especially when we redo our land development code that we're currently doing. But at this
Okay.
time, this ordinance is just to comply with state statute.
Okay.
It's just to ensure that there is a process in our code that allows for applicants to seek that kind of
Because we
relief.
don't have it now. Gotcha.
And we have nothing for them to seek relief from currently.
And it's just to seek consideration.
Which is probably why there's none in Ocoee.
Exactly,
Which is
yes.
probably
and-
why we don't have one in Ocoee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Makes sense,
They
okay.
can't actually come right now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
All right.
there's nothing. So-
Very well, perfect.
So, I mean, we'll have these regulations in place. If we were to approve this, we'll have regulations in place before we let someone come in and become a
So-
certified.
Let's say this scenario happens. The city adopts this ordinance, which is to create an opportunity for applicants coming in to seek relief from any ordinance that we have that they think they deserve accommodation from. It passes and it's adopted into our code. The next week, we get an application for a certified recovery residence. Currently, under our code, we would have to just treat that as a local business tax application. We have nothing in our land development code that specifically restricts certified recovery residences. And to Vice Chair Forge's point, there's stuff that we can include when we work on our land development code update that includes buffering requirements, minimum distances from schools. But currently, the city has not adopted and has nothing in our land development code regarding that. So,
So that'll create the precedence of what we accept as a city that can be deemed reasonable and legal for this kind of,
yeah, well, that's something that staff, because we have never had these applications before, and honestly, we've never looked into like what the case law, I guess, is and what the precedent is for what a reasonable accommodation is. We're not sure what the state or courts consider to be a reasonable accommodation, or what precedent has been set, because there's been none in the city. So.
Basically, right now, if somebody applied for one, we don't have anything stopping them.
Yes.
That they would want to use this rule against, because there isn't anything to say that
Yes.
we're not allowing it because of it.
There's
'Cause all
nothing
this
for
is-
them to seek an accommodation
Yeah,
from.
so there's no way to seek an accommodation because there's nothing to be accommodated from.
Now, again,
As it stands in
when,
Ocoee today.
when staff brings before you and the city commission our updated land development code, there certainly may be restrictions in that someone could come and seek an accommodation from. But at this time, there's nothing in our current land development code.
Understood. All right. Any more comments from, all right, let's open this to a public hearing. Anyone in the public? No? Anyone on the phone? Emails? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to us for a motion to approve or disapprove.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion of recommendation of approval for the text amendment to the Land Development Code, creating section 4-13 to establish the regulations and procedures for the certified recovery residences.
All right, we have a motion to recommend approval by Member Butler. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
All right, second by Member Keller. Any comments? Let's vote. Motion carries. Now I can go to miscellaneous items. There you go. And rush this thing out, go back life.
We have a workshop, sir.
We're a workshop.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna drag this thing out an hour.
Let's have a workshop. There you go. Open space, there you go. Open space workshop. Let's have a workshop.
All right.
We usually have those in the back room, don't we?
There we go. Okay, continuing on our land development code subject, here I'm going to talk about, and this is just a workshop only, we'll come back in the future, about our impervious surface and kind of our open space requirements that are in our land development code. So the reason why we're doing this and bringing this to you, right now we actually have quite a few properties out there in subdivisions that have a 50% impervious surface requirement. However, a lot of them have already built above that, and right now with some code violations or with somebody wanting to put something else in and seeing their neighbor already has that, we're trying to figure out a mechanism to accommodate that while we're developing and updating our land development code or our update to the land development code. So we're looking for a policy, kind of as a stopgap right now, to kind of accommodate these residents that we have within the city currently that could, and it seems reasonable that we could go beyond that 50% impervious surface. So we're going to look at kind of where we have it in the code right now, how it's kind of applied, and options for the impervious surface that we may consider as a policy that we can bring back at a later date. So right now, impervious surface is really the percentage of lot or land area that's covered by non-grass or open space within a parcel. The coverage of the lot, which we'll go over within, you have the coverage, which is all either with the building coverage or with the driveway coverage. That's all considered impervious surface, but as you start talking about patios and pools, that also gets calculated within the impervious surface. And we check this with all permits also, not just in the development of the land. So as they're coming in for a permit for, say, adding to their driveway or adding pavers to their backyard, we need to calculate this impervious surface to make sure that they are under this 50% requirement in a lot of the subdivisions we have. A lot of the new subdivisions we've approved actually has an impervious surface of up to 70%. So there's a little inconsistency in what we've previously approved, what we have in our code, to what we've been approving right now through planned use developments. So really why we had this is to provide sufficient area for each building for landscaping and open space, protect vegetation, and make sure it was a sufficient recharge to the aquifer. But as we're talking about these subdivisions, a lot of this is counted into that stormwater, making sure we're not flooding, making sure there's proper accommodations, and a lot of them have drainage and utility easements around each parcel, which to accommodate some of this. So we're really not worried about so much of the flooding risk that could come into that with the impervious surface. Some things that are a little inconsistent with our code that I found kind of interesting, as we talk about impervious surface, things like pavers, even they have pervious pavers are considered in the impervious surface. I guess there is something, I was corrected earlier today, there is impervious mulch, where there are some mulches that the water cannot percolate through all the way. But there are a lot of synthetic grasses and turfs out there that are becoming more pervious. So something where our code, and we're going to look to update that with our land development code. But these are just some of the inconsistencies that we have right now as we're trying to apply that code to as people come in and wanting to expand their recreational use of their backyard. How do we want to apply this? Other things like an open porch. We would consider a porch or a covered porch as it juts out, even if you had grass underneath it, would be considered impervious surface, even though the water underneath it could percolate through. So again, another kind of inconsistency as we're looking at how do we apply impervious versus pervious surface within our code. Here's our table of permitted uses. Most of our residential, our districts in our zoning have a 50% requirement, except for that single two-family, which has the 70%. And as I mentioned before, we have approved a lot of the recent plan unit development subdivision plans with up to a 70% impervious surface. So at 50% and with a 40% building coverage, that really only leaves you 10% to put a patio or do anything else with your backyard. And as you know, as you see a lot of these pools and covered patios, that does take up more than 10% of the remaining space if you only have a 40% lot coverage. So here's just a couple little examples. Not telling you where these are, because I don't want to call it anything. But this unit right here, this house, actually meets the 50% impervious surface with that very large open space backyard and front yard. This one does not meet the 50% impervious surface, though in the same subdivision. In fact, they're neighbors. So if the gentleman on the east side wanted to come in, or the family on the east side wanted to come in and put in a pool, we would have to deny that due to impervious surface, though he could put it as a neighbor and say, how did they get their pool in there? So this is the inconsistency as we're trying to apply this and looking to correct this maybe with a policy as we look at the city as whole in our land development code to see really what do we want to do in terms of impervious surface and these permits that are coming in. So just to kind of cover where Orange County's at, Orange County actually has an impervious or open space of up to 20%, so they can't exceed 80% impervious, which is quite high. I'm not sure we ever really want to get there, but this is what this workshop is for. We're also single-family detached is at 75%. So a couple things that I wanted to discuss in considerations. This isn't limited. I just wanted to throw something out and see what we think or where we want to go from this or even build from it. So we could increase our impervious surface to either 70 or 75% for single-family residential within subdivisions to comply with the existing kind of single-family development as a policy, something to move forward with for at this time until we can come back to you with our land development code update. We can remove the impervious surface requirement and convert it all lot coverage. Instead of saying impervious surface, we just need the lot coverage to be at a 70%, and that will allow that flexibility of building and outside, 70 or 75. Or something that I found in some other codes, we could also keep the front yard setback, so have an impervious surface for just the front yard, because that seems to be a lot of the concerns for the neighbors is having somebody pave in your whole front yard. We don't want it all driveway. So do something as more of a requirement as the front yard needs to be 50% impervious, and let the backyard be whatever meets our setbacks. So that way you're not within that drainage or utility easement, you're not encroaching too far on your neighbors, and let them dictate what goes on behind their fence behind it. So these are kind of just three options I started with, and now let's open it up for discussion and see what everybody else thinks in terms of how should we apply impervious surface temporarily until we come back with a land development code.
Well, first of all, those are defined by, let's say, signs, right? So you have, we're doing the 50% because to prevent flooding and other things. So there is a reason for it, not just, but I'm also hearing aesthetics, right?
Yes.
So people may not want that. So what will be the basis for it? 50% or 70% or 80%?
So right now, I think the 50% was a very old standard that was done through subdivisions to have a lot more space in between and a lot more open space without it being a very urban kind of subdivision. But what's trying to transpire over the years, is, especially during COVID, is a lot more people wanted to spend their time outside. So we were having a lot of people coming in and expanding their recreational spaces or their spaces outdoors. That's where Orange County started increasing theirs, and that's why theirs is much higher. In fact, they consider even pavers as recreational space in their backyard, allowing some of that. A lot of these are in our already established planned unit developed subdivisions that went through an extensive stormwater and drainage studies. So it's not something where we're worried about having a significant flooding concern. It's more so allowing, since it's already, well, kind of out there today, it's kind of correcting something that's already been maybe overlooked a little bit, or, yeah, and not having to go through and code violate somebody for not meeting their impervious surface when it seems to be working properly right now without any issues. Now, there are instances where we may want to take a look at it and say, well, you know what, there is possibly a flooding here. Is there something you can do to mitigate some of that water and almost bring it down into the drainage easement so it doesn't encroach into your neighbor's yard if one's higher than the other? These are things that we could look at on a case-by-case basis, and that's something we could add to this policy. And so it's not just a blanket, take everything away. Within this policy, also, we need to look at each lot on an individual level for, topography, or just make sure, is there anything you can do to help make sure your stormwater or your washes to your drainage points within the subdivision. But a lot of them seem to be functioning fine. It's more of just correcting of, if somebody comes in now with a permit and we have to deny them on this claim, but they can point to their neighbor, which we're finding happening a lot more now. And plus, I think a lot of subdivision HOAs have allowed these things to go through, and almost we're coming back after the fact with the permit, as we've seen some of these pergolas come up as people have expanded their backyards, and we're like, whoa, we didn't see a permit for that. But wait a minute, I already had that in for the last 6 months. It's like, all right, well, is it really necessary? And we're finding a lot of times that it's not. And a lot of them are getting away from this impervious and looking at more open space. And on a new subdivision or some of these subdivisions, usually the drainage is quite fine.
I got a question, comment about, let's say, for example, we're gonna use big numbers, like it fits a lot that is 2 acres. Let's just assume 100,000 square feet. If 100,000 square feet, does that mean that you can put, with the 50% rule, you can put 50% of concrete, or impervious, correct?
That would be correct, yeah.
What about if 30,000 of that is part of a lake or up to a flood line? What do you account? The flood line up or the full square footage, which is 100,000?
So you have to have a 25-foot buffer from the lake or the flood line to make sure. So we could consider that pervious, and you have the lake, but you would still be allowed to do the 50%
Of the
on
100,000?
On the 100,000.
Okay, I went through a scenario like that, and I think that was the answer. That was a different answer than what was given, and that's why there's gonna be houses that have this same scenario that could be backtracked.
So just like on some of our subdivisions and PUDs, the one that came through as a townhouse, we don't consider their stormwater necessarily as open space unless you amenitize it. So they made a track around it, so therefore it's an amenity in an open space that they were allowed to calculate within their calculation. So I guess it depends on what it is and how it is, but if it's say if you have a conservation tract in your backyard, it's not really buildable, but yet the water can percolate down into it. For us, in this case scenario, would we tell you that you can't put a pool there because you can only do 50%, and that would be your entire lot coverage if half of it was able to be built upon? Here, we're trying to relax that and say, no, you should be able to put a pool there because you still have enough impervious surface to meet the 30% requirement if we went to 70.
Yeah, no, that was, the question that I asked you was actually a personal scenario that happened, that the answer was that it can't be the 100,000. It had to be from the flood line up. So theoretically, I was only gonna be able to use, out of the 80,000 square feet, 50% of that would be
40,000.
So I would be eliminating myself the other additional 10,000 square feet. Those were not the correct numbers. That was just a round number so we can kind of go through that. So I never went back to look at if there was something on set in stone, but with this changing it to 70, we just got to make sure that we put it so that if somebody comes back and has a question like I just did, which one is the route that we're going to go out of?
The consistency.
Full 100,000 or only with the flood line and upwards?
That's a good question.
And that changed me from doing a lot of things at my house, that's why.
Because it came from what you could build on for the lot versus what the whole lot covered
Correct.
had.
Yes.
You know, I think I like the last proposal from your,
Yes, the front, the having 50% of the front.
yeah, exactly. Do whatever you want as long as you're within the setback in your backyard. I kinda like that.
Yeah, because
You know what I mean?
everybody,
Because if you stay within a setback, I think you will control flood to your neighbors and what have you. Do whatever you want. I mean, it's the backyard. You know, I kinda like that. The only thing is, the idea now is imposing, you know, the rule on the front yard, not forcing people to have 2-car garages versus 3. You know what I mean? Because we have growing families, you know, where 2 cars forces you to have 2-car garage forces you to have 2 cars on the street. So, but I do like the idea of it's your backyard and you just do whatever you want within your setback.
And
I
that
like
kind
that
of,
idea.
the 50%, make sure you're not, you know,
Yeah.
building too many pavers in your front
Exactly,
yard.
so you
which
don't flood your
then-
neighbors, you know what I
Correct.
mean? But
Yeah.
stay within your setback, I think I like that idea.
I'm trying to remember which subdivision it was that came to us. I want to say it was last summer. We had, was it 2 or 3 different people from the same subdivision?
Forest Lake
Forest Lake
Estates.
Estates.
Forest Lake Estates.
Okay.
Yeah, they were putting pavers inside their houses to prevent erosion.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they were flooding
Flooding the neighbors.
the neighbors
They were
because they put
flooding-
pavers to avoid erosion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with something like that, I'm wondering, you know, it sounds good on paper, but if everybody does it, are we now getting to the point where we're gonna flood ourselves because everybody went up to 70% or everybody went up to 75%, and now we don't have enough area for runoff? Because, you know,
but
one
in that-
house changes it, hey, okay, it still works.
Yeah.
When everybody in the subdivision changes it, the subdivisions were built, if you will, for the way the runoff was supposed to be, based on what the requirements were at the time.
Correct.
And granted, the requirements have changed over the years. But if you have an older subdivision which said, yeah, based on a 50% impervious max, we can have runoff like this and we won't flood. If now all of a sudden we say, well, you know what, you can have 70. Now you're down to only 30%. Is that going to put those older subdivisions into a position where all of a sudden we start to see a lot of flooding and people are gonna come back, sort of like Forest Lake did, with, hey, our property's being flooded because our neighbor put in pavers to stop their erosion?
Well, correct, and they were wrong for that, because they were not within setback, because they were putting those pavers to their property lines.
And pushing the water through.
Exactly, you know what I mean? So that would not be the same thing for this here. We're saying, do whatever you want within your, obviously reasonably, within the setback. These guys were just going from south their houses to their property line with pavers, literally flooding their neighbors.
Yeah.
So, that was a little
Yeah,
different.
and that was definitely overboard because you were going right to the
Yeah,
lines.
they went right to the property line because they didn't like the erosion or know how to control it.
So maybe the concession behind that is we do the policy at 65%, and then if they need to go above that,
get a variance.
they can come in with, for a
Come in
conversation.
variance
But if
Based
we're,
on conditions, yeah.
conditions.
And what about the kind of materials? Because nowadays there are all new
Yeah,
sorts of materials that are.
That's what we need to go in and kind of put in this, because we're getting more of these artificial turfs that are pervious. There are more, even pavers that are becoming more
Concrete,
pervious. Concrete is
Concrete
becoming,
is
so that's where our land development code really doesn't follow any of that or consider it. So this is where we're looking at this kind of interim policy to help us through this as we're going through this land development code update and something that we can incorporate within it. So within this policy, we'll have those materials that are considered, you know, pervious to go along with what we're updating the percentage to be.
Well, I like the third option over here.
And I do like that third option.
I like that.
I'm just be careful with the numbers so that
Yeah.
we don't create a flood that didn't happen because our numbers were low.
Well, correct, and also, let's not go back to 1-car garages.
Yeah,
either because of
yeah.
that. That's not, you know what I mean?
But I mean, between the 40% building coverage and then you're only giving that 10%, that doesn't leave.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Much
I'm in the front line, yeah.
Yeah.
Because majority of us come home, put down the garage door, no one sees you. It's in the backyard. So, okay, cool. Any more discussion on the workshop? Project updates, what you got for us? What's going on beside Walmart?
Well,
Who wants a big sign that they don't need?
who wants? Let's see, now I gotta go back. So yes, we got a couple other developments underway between the Walmart. The next thing you should start seeing is across the street from the Walmart.
Okay.
We have that northwest sector should be coming in soon, coming in front of you all, which is a couple commercial properties just right in front in that Ocoee Village Center. Besides that, what we have also coming to you and growing in, we have a couple industrial complexes coming in on Ocoee Apopka that we're starting to review. Starting to see that traction coming around the Pine Street and Ocoee Apopka area. Still getting some attention on some downtown properties, so we're looking to see how those start coming to fruition and filling out our downtown. Besides that, a lot of just people coming in and talking.
Okay. I saw some movements with that school down there. It looks like they did remove that wooden enclosure to a PVC enclosure.
Yes, they did. OBT kids, they finally got that done, and actually the pad across the street right in within that
Yep.
is coming in for the building itself.
Okay.
Same with down there on McGuire Road with the Ocoee Corners in the Target Area 1 area.
Okay.
We should start seeing a building right there next to the West Orange Creamery and the movie theater.
Oh, really?
So they have a building permit in also.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's the big one? City Center. With that desk?
The city
Go
center,
for
right?
it. City Center.
I've got nothing on City Center.
I don't
It
know.
is
All
still-
No new investors, nothing.
Yep, no, we have no updates right now on City Center.
All right. Well, if there are no more discussion, I might as well go ahead and adjourn this meeting. And it looks like our next meeting is July 14th, so this meeting's called adjourned.